please rise and sing the Pledge of Allegiance.
That one now.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is now 6 o'clock on June 25th, 2019. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Sandwich Board of Appeals. The Board of Appeals currently has 5 regular members and 2 alternate members. The Board of Appeals can have up to 4 alternate members. Any decision of this board requires a 2/3 vote. 2/3 of 5 is 4. If only 4 members vote, the vote would have to be unanimous. If 5 members vote, 1 member could dissent. Before we go for approval of the minutes, there's a correction to the minutes on 528 on page 4, paragraph 2, line 13 to 14. Tree is changed to structure. And the updated ones are in your package. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 28, 2019 and June 11, 2019?
Approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, tonight, guys, the board's entering into initial deliberations, and we've heard from just about everyone and anyone on both sides with opinions and facts and reports. So tonight, we're going to keep it to direct questions from the board to town staff and to the applicant and to anyone else that they may have a question for. Those will be the primary temporary deliberations, and then we will close the open meeting in order to vote and do the special permit. So, all right, we move forward.
We're still open, right?
Yeah, we're still open. We're going to be open for full discussion with anyone you have questions for, and we won't close until everyone's satisfied that they have the answers they need.
Okay.
So, anyone have any specific questions? I know we have some points that we have to kind of make sure we're aware of or on the same page of before we move forward. But any other questions to start, or should I just start working my way through what the points I think we have to?
I think you can work through them.
Okay.
Does the applicant have anything to add before we get going?
Ms. Cox?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the board for the time and thought that they've given on this application. We're completely comfortable with the chair's suggestion, and our whole team is here should the board have any questions of us.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, to the board, do we think the applicant is satisfied to the board that they are not an amusement park?
Yes.
Anyone have any questions for Tim, Eric?
No.
Okay.
Excuse me,
Sure.
Chair, if you could elaborate on that as to why you believe it's not an amusement park, to provide that information in the decision. Sure.
Can we just provide it in the decision, or do we have to provide it now? I mean,
Sure, if you're comfortable with doing that.
okay. Has the applicant satisfied to the board that they meet the criteria for an outdoor recreation facility?
Under 4150, yes.
Anybody else have any questions, yes or no?
Do you want to just go through the details of that?
Are we, Chris, are you doing deliberation, or are you just throwing this out there?
Preliminary deliberation.
Yes.
Okay.
I know we usually deliberate after we've closed, but it's been recommended by council we move it in this direction.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's, I think we discussed that. So there was no issue at any other point, it's 4151.
I didn't see any.
The question, I'm sure, that is in the room is, it's a small-scale community recreation and sports facility. The definition of small-scale is not elaborated in our zoning bylaw. And I know we'll deliberate that as we go through. But that's the only question I have out of 4150 and its subsequent 4151. All the other A, B, C, D, E, and F are fine with me.
Okay. Any other concerns?
I just have one question, well, a couple questions, but for now, for Sam, on 1342, which is the criteria for reviewing special permits. Do you have any comments or care to elaborate on any of those measures, A through G? I know some of them really aren't applicable. I just wondered if you had any comments further, provide further detail on that.
In terms of the site plan elements,
Yes.
no, we reviewed the, the site plan, and our comments essentially are summarized in our memorandum that we provided previously. We had noted that the assumptions made in the traffic analysis appeared to be reasonable and consistent with what we would expect. They did show that there was no significant impact from the analysis that they conducted, and that we had noted that they could provide a little more detail on trip distribution and capacity analysis, but otherwise it was generally consistent with what we would expect.
When you say the trip distribution, you're talking about how much went to Heritage and how much went to the Adventure
Trip
Park?
distribution in terms of the distribution on the local road network or traffic associated with the facility. So they did a capacity analysis that then looked at different intersections. They found that there was not a significant impact, and the report was relatively brief. And so some reports have a lot more detail, a lot more elaboration. I wouldn't necessarily say that's necessary in this particular case, but that detail, they could provide more if the board felt it was necessary.
On that subject of traffic, I looked at the last 2 years, 17 and 18, and 18 went to August 31st. So I compared the 2 years up to that point. And I believe the gentleman mentioned about the 2.5 occupants per vehicle, something to that effect. So I came up with, in that time period, approximately 126 people per day in 18, I think 166 in 17. An average of I think it was 142, 143 days from opening until the end of August. And then it drops off precipitously. And what I came up with is about between 50 and 60 additional vehicle trips per day for the adventure park, which equates to about 5 per hour, 5 to 6 more vehicle trips per hour, which is like another trip every 10 or 12 minutes. Are those numbers accurate? Do they accurately reflect what we would expect to see given the numbers we actually have?
From our perspective in the engineering department, it's difficult to put comparative numbers, because it's a unique facility.
It's what? I'm sorry?
It's a unique facility.
No, I agree, but I'm
Yeah.
going by the actual attendance numbers. So
Sure.
looking at theoretical like we typically do when we're reviewing a permit, we actually have real numbers. And that's what I mean, those, as simple as calculating it in that way, we have an average number of attendance per day, over a 10-hour period. It seems pretty simple to me. And if that's the case, is that what we're looking at, is about 5 to 6 extra trips per hour based on their attendance numbers?
There's different ways of looking at it. I don't know if your traffic engineer it may be better to have them elaborate on.
No, I understand, but I figured I would you reviewed it and
Sure.
get your opinion on it.
Well, they provided a peak hour estimate, 53 trips per hour.
Correct.
And that's where the question of trip distribution comes into play. So of those 53 trips in that peak hour, how are they assigned to the
Correct.
local roadways and the intersections?
But the applicant also stated that the adventure park doesn't really have a peak period, that everything related might be to
Yeah.
the existing park.
Right.
So the additional vehicle trips, which is what we have to concentrate on, would be spread out over a period of time. Is that a reasonable assumption?
I would say so, and I think it's reasonable to infer that most days that peak hour would probably not materialize. I mean, it's a theoretical based on how they ran their analysis. So it's likely that based on how it's managed, that the traffic would be less than that. But again, I defer to the applicant's engineer on that, but I wouldn't argue the point on that. I think it's a reasonable assumption to make.
So if that's the case, if we're looking at 5 to 6 extra trips per hour average, would you consider that a minor impact, or you know, how would you characterize
It seems to be something that the roadway network could accommodate.
Okay.
It results in changes in levels of operation, so levels of services as well, particularly at intersections. And so there may be additional delays with turning movements at intersections. It's unlikely it would be a significant impact based on the levels that we're talking about. What they showed was that there would be no measurable impact in their analysis. And, you know, Paul Tilton and I looked at it and really didn't have a whole lot to offer in the way of criticism of the way that they did it.
Okay. So the roads in question then, what, can you say roughly what they're designed to handle, what kind of traffic levels they're designed to handle? Can you characterize them?
Well, these, like we noted in our comment memo, these roads are residential in character. They are relatively low-volume streets, right? And they're certainly not to the level of like an arterial route like Route 150, Route 6A, connector roads. In terms of, are you looking for a number? Is that what you're after?
Yeah, any sort of rough
Sure, like what they had in here?
What's that?
Like what they had in their report? Is
Well,
that
what you
you're
would
looking for?
typically design for, you know, what, if you were analyzing that road to say, oh,
What we do is we look for a rule of thumb of 25 trips per hour for the peak hour, 250 trips per day. And that's where, if it crosses the threshold, we look for an analysis similar to what they have done. And then we'll look for a level of service analysis at area intersections, all right? And then and look at the capacity of that. And so they've done that. And honestly, it looks as though it's relatively moderate.
okay, thank you.
Please, did anyone ask Mr. Mello a question?
No, but I submitted some materials that show discrepancies on the visitor data that Eric submitted for the application. To the extent the board's relying on that data, I just want to point out that there are discrepancies between what was submitted on June 21st, rather than the applicant's submission and exhibits 94 and 95 from the trial.
All right, that's fine.
You can compare the 2015 and 2016, if you just look at the first 25 or so, it's right over there. It's
Okay.
2015 and 2016.
All right, moving on. The next question is in regard to small scale. As we all know, there is no definition of small scale, but you know, I'm looking at it. You know, they're saying small scale community recreation and sports fields. Well, if sports fields are small scale, I'm considering this small scale.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the average, anywhere from 120 to 160 people a day over the last couple of years, obviously is peak, so I don't know how you could characterize it as such. The highest was like 370 in one day.
Yeah, that was in 2017.
Yeah.
So that was, Heritage had an average of 496 people per day. I don't know what their high was. I think it was like 700
For the adventure park.
for the adventure park, and
No, it
this
never
was
that. I don't think they had a
370.
day that high. The highest day was like 370.
Okay. But just looking at a quick average of those, the average per hour in 2015 was 29. It was 46 per hour in 2016, and 46 in 2017. So I agree with you, I think it's small scale.
Any other comments from the board or questions for anyone? Eric, Tim?
No.
Okay. Move on. Does it meet the criteria of community is the next item we're going to have to work on, based on how
And
the,
again, that's not defined to us
No, it's
from
not
the zoning
defined as
bylaw,
well.
but according to the applicant, there is discounts offered to the local schools, there are school programs, there are vouchers that the local restaurants use when people leave the adventure park and go to eat, they get discounts. So I think it ties into the community very well. That's just my personal.
Yeah, I think we had a fair amount of testimony to that effect as well.
right, and we had testimony on the other side as well, but I think the majority, and I agree that it's, good for the town of Sandwich and it is a community use. Anybody, any questions for anyone? All right, we move on. Has the applicant satisfied the board that they meet the criteria of no building or other structure related to outdoor recreation facilities shall be constructed or placed on a lot with an area of less than 80,000 square feet? I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, the 2 yurts.
Yeah, the yurts and the deck are going to be outside. They're going to be, what, 113?
I think they're going to rebuild one of the yurts because it exceeded
Right.
the 500 feet.
Right. All right, so no issues there.
No issue there.
No concessions. They've answered that question. And the lighting question, they strictly said that there will be no lighting. The lighting criteria for the permit, they answered that.
I think that lighting was only used when they had, in the winter, for the lights and boat,
For the overflow
for the
parking.
overflow parking.
As the applicant satisfied to the board that they meet the criteria that lot coverage by building structures, paving, or other impervious structures or additions to any building, structure, paving, or other impervious surface shall not exceed 20%. And I think the answer there was 1%, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so we're good there. Has the applicant satisfied to the board that the elements of the ropes course does or does not meet the definition of structure as presented in the Sandwich Protective Zoning Bylaw?
Great question.
That's a great question. I've read back over both the court case and all the stuff people have, and Paul at one time said it was a structure, Brendan has said it was a structure, Paul has said it wasn't a structure, I believe the court has said it wasn't a structure. So I'm confused. We've used the analogy that it's something that must be fixed to the ground or attached to something fixed to the ground. The tree is fixed to the ground. But in my mind, the structure, the platforms are not attached to the trees. Now, one of the gentlemen here has sent some pictures of spikes to the trees, and both in our visit that day, and I went out again today with my binoculars, I cannot find where they're bolted into the trees. Now, perhaps we can have a discussion about that in a little bit here.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was relative to the deck, the bolting.
The bolting, it's probably not. But if it strictly sits on the wedges as it shows, now the wedges are bolted to the 4x4s, and then the whole platform sets on the tree. And it's by compression, in my mind. To me, that's not affixed to a tree.
No,
I don't know, I got a hard time with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, everything I've read too, it does allude to the structure,
I mean, its load path is through the tree attached to the facility, is where the definition drives you, so.
Yeah, I don't push that it is.
I think I've talked to Brendan several times and, was on the fence either way.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning at this point, based on his load factors that aren't really considered in here, but things that attribute to the quote structure, that, he would consider it a structure. And I'm a lay person, I'm not an engineer, I don't have his background, and I don't do it every day. So I'm leaning towards calling the It is structure.
The platforms.
But,
My only concern with, you can argue it both ways.
Right.
Competently. But as the issue I raise is where could you extend this definition to? Could you extend it to a clothesline? Because you could make that same argument.
Treehouse.
Well, sure, but from a practical matter, you put up a clothesline or anything, and you can call it a structure. I don't think that was ever intended for that purpose. So obviously, I think the definition needs work, but, and I think you could make either argument fit into it based on that.
well, I think I'll have Brendan speak. We actually talked about the clothesline. So-
I mean, there's
Yeah,
other
we-
examples. I mean, you can say
No,
a bird
right.
feeder, right?
So we did talk about a clothesline, and we also talked about a cable connecting one tree to another. In considering those, I would ask you to consider a sheet of plywood. Is that a structure? Is a 2x4 a structure? I suspect your answer is not. But when those elements come together, they form a structure. It is my opinion that the whole course is a structure. The cables that hold the bridges, the platforms that are connected, I believe it is a complete structure. When we run a line from one tree to another to hang our clothes on, we don't calculate live loads and dead loads because we're not going to have our kids hanging up there, hopefully. But in this instance, we've got bridges, we've got elements that are up in the air that are, 25 and 30 feet in the air, designed by an engineer, certified by an engineer, carrying dead loads of the equipment itself of about 10 pounds per square foot, and then required to carry live loads of people, probably about 50 pounds per square foot. So I think those kinds of things qualify the entire structure to be a structure. Whereas with a clothesline or a line connecting a tree, it's not really serving any purpose. We are dealing with zoning, and as many of you know, that zoning on its finest day of clarity can be quite ambiguous. So there's an element of interpretation involved there. But fortunately, for structures at least, there is a definition in the zoning bylaw, unlike community and unlike small scale and so on. And I think it's pretty clear that what it says in the definition, that the element is attached to something on the ground. In this case, it's a tree, and I believe that makes the entire course a structure.
I don't disagree with that in terms of load calculation, but the definition doesn't refer to anything like that. It just says this is what it is, attached. It doesn't say attached if it has to be calculated, if it serves what purpose. So I'm not
Right.
disagreeing with you, I'm just saying there's enough ambiguity in that definition, and I think it's not written particularly well.
Sure, I agree.
But anyway, that's the point I've been arguing, is where beyond this, that definition could be applied. And I think you can make the argument for a number of different ways based on the requirements of how it's written.
Your thoughts, Bob?
No, I mean, I'm 49, 51 on this. I go back and forth each day, I change my mind. Is it a structure, is it not a structure? So I think we need to save that till we do our true
Okay.
final.
All right, any other comments before we move on then? All right.
But again, just not to drag it up too deep, but in case we need to ask some questions, is there a difference, Brendan, in your mind, between a compression fit and a bolted fit to the tree? Because I couldn't find any bolted to the tree, and yet people have been saying they're all bolted.
Yeah, I would consider it attached. I mean, you don't have to bolt something to something else to attach it. You could weld it.
So compression
Glue
you
it.
would-
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
that compression is attachment, for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, just realize we're asking the questions now, because once we're closed, there'll be
We can't
no
ask.
ask questions.
Yeah, if he had a problem between the two, then I wanted to open it up to.
Sure. Yes, Lila.
Mr. Chairman, I did see the photographs that were submitted to the board, and I think that's what you're referring to.
That's correct.
So I wanted to clarify, and I know most of you were at the site visit, so you saw the course yourself, but the photographs, and I've asked my fellow applicants here at the table to confirm this to me, that shows, those are photographs of the starting platform, the launch platform, which we have always said from day one is a structure. It is located more than 100 feet from the property line. So this is irrelevant to the question of whether the elements that are in the trees are structures. We have always said that this particular launch platform is a structure under your bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right. Is the applicant satisfied to the board that they meet the criteria that off-street shall be provided within 100 feet of any property boundary line and shall be screened from any public way or driveway?
Yes.
Yes.
Has the applicant satisfied the board that they meet the criteria that spectator seats shall not exceed 100? Yes. Is the applicant satisfied to the board that they meet the criteria that nuisance hazard or congestion shall not be created as a result of the special permit?
I believe they have.
I believe they have.
Eric?
Yep. Okay. Has the applicant satisfied to the board that they meet the criteria that there will be no substantial harm to the neighborhood as a result of the special permit? I don't feel there will be. Okay. Has the applicant satisfied to the board that they meet the criteria that there is no derogation from the intent of the bylaw such as the district's objectives and will not be satisfied or will not be satisfied as a result of the special permit?
I believe they have demonstrated that.
Yep. Okay. All right. Any other questions that the board has for anyone? Any final comment from the applicant or question from the applicant?
No, I think, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand you'll get back to the question of whether or not the platforms are structures. I guess I would just ask if you could do that.
But we're getting back to that during the deliberation once it's closed. So if you have anything else to add, now's the
So
time to do
we'd
it.
prefer that, if possible, the board deliberate on that question while the public hearing is still open. In the event the board, I'll put it out there, in the event that the board finds that these are structures, we do have a plan that we would like to submit that brings everything outside of the 100-foot setback.
Okay.
So if possible, we'd ask the board to deliberate on that question so that we can submit the report if we need to.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna say that the course is a structure. That's how I feel at this point. I know it's on the fence, but I'm gonna go to that 51.
I'm going to too.
I think so as well.
Yeah, I can go along with that. I think the applicant has the ability to work around that requirement.
Okay. I mean, like I said, I was on the fence. I've moved structure, not structure, structure, not, and then I went back out there today and I looked at it again and I said, it's not a structure. But based upon Brendan and people that are in the business, I can agree that it's a structure.
All right, so I think, Ms. Cox, you
If I
understand that
could
we're gonna
ask
call it structure.
Mr. Azarm wanted to respond quickly to that, and then we do have a plan that we can submit for the record. But I'd like to let him just speak for just a moment, if that's
That's
okay.
fine.
Thank you. I do appreciate the building commissioner's interpretation, and I do understand why he would like to consider that a structure. But I have to say that, having a little bit of engineering background myself, that his definition would also include a rock that's placed on the property as structure, or even a tree that's been cut off as a stump would then be considered as a structure. I would like to just say that the platforms that are up there, they actually don't even have to be there in order for the course to operate. They're there as a place where people can rest as they're going to the new, from one element to the next, because they're always tethered to something else, and that's really what we consider their lifeline and what we design our courses on. So a platform itself can just be hovering, or it could be hanging, it could be anything, so that they can rest on that, but they have no load requirements per se, where I think a building or something that would hold people for safety would need.
Tom, can you help me vision this? I'm coming along on the ropes course, I'm tethered in, I got a clip in my harness, and I'm coming along, I put my feet on the platform, I'm going to go to the next element over here. Do I unclip this and put this over here, and then continue on?
So around every tree, there's actually a lifeline, so when you come from one element, you clip onto the lifeline around the tree.
On the tree?
On the tree, it has nothing to do with the platform. So the platform is just enable you to rest your feet while you do that. And then you go
But
to...
I unclipped from cable A and I clipped to cable B.
Correct.
When I'm unclipped, my weight is on the platform.
But you're never unclipped with both clips.
Oh, okay.
You're always
Clip to B
clipped.
first before
Okay.
unclipping
Correct.
it.
You're always clipped on because you cannot physically unclip both.
Okay.
So let's say you're standing on the platform and for some reason the platform wedges come out and the platform goes down. You are still
Clipped in.
safely tethered to the light bar.
But did I not hear you mention that you felt that the cables themselves were structures?
Correct. I feel that the whole course is a structure, and just to speak for somebody who's involved with public safety, I'm just a little taken aback at the idea that it's really okay for the platform to fall, because you're going to be hanging on a line eventually anyway. I think we probably need to do better than that.
I have a point of order. Are we going to be allowed to ask questions?
If someone has a question for you, yes. Otherwise, no.
You didn't say that at the last meeting.
I said that at this meeting because we've had 2 very lengthy meetings where everyone in the room got to
Well,
speak.
you know, a lot of us have $45,000 worth of real estate at stake.
I understand that,
We
Mr.
should
DePercio.
be able, I'll tell you right now, that those spikes you saw, ones I took pictures of, are going right into the wedge. Therefore, the wedge has no function.
But we're not here really talking about the spikes at this point. We're talking about, is the course a structure? Whether it's spiked or wedged
By
is
the way,
really not...
I was for years and years and years a licensed builder, licensed construction supervisor.
Mhm.
And I'm also a graduate engineer. And I'm telling you right now, if you put spikes through and they pick up the wedges, as you looked at, then the wedges don't work.
All right,
That's
Mr. DePercio, that's not the issue at the
I know
moment.
it's never the issue when we have something to say, but go ahead, I'll listen.
Everyone's had plenty of opportunity to say everything they wanted
We
to
didn't have an
say.
opportunity to talk about that because we learned that on the visit. So when, between the visit and now, do we have that opportunity?
The last meeting.
The last meeting was shortly after the visit. We didn't have time to do the analysis.
All right, well, let's move on. Ms. Cox?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to submit for the record a revised plan. I have 3 full-size copies and several small-size copies, one for each board member. And as you'll see on the revised plan, and I have reviewed this plan with the building commissioner, with the town planner and the assistant town planner, it pulls all of the course elements outside of the 100-foot setback, so I'll submit that.
So you're just going to stamp in the big ones, you don't need to stamp it.
Unless you want to take a look at the big one or take a look at the small one.
You want the big one?
Chairman, while you're reviewing that, will we get a chance to review that before you vote today?
Sure, there's one right there. You can review it right now.
Okay? We start now. Thank you.
So they basically pulled everything right here.
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
it's helpful, I could tell you.
Yeah,
the
please
change.
just give a brief summary
Yeah.
for the board.
And the Horsley Witten Group is here as well. If you have any questions of them, they prepared the plan. 2 courses were realigned on this plan. One is the so-called Mountain Trail course shown in green, and the other is the waterfall course that's shown in blue. And you'll see notes that talk about them being realigned. So if you look at the starting platform, which is outside of the 100-foot setback, right here, you'll see it shows the green mountain trail realignment, now fully outside of the 100-foot setback. In addition, the waterfall course, the dark blue course, is also fully outside of the 100-foot setback. In addition, the plan notes there is a existing briefing area where initial orientations are provided to climbers. That also is proposed to be moved outside of the 100-foot setback with this plan.
Is that the area where all you've got is 2 posts and cable between them?
Correct.
Is there a need to pull that outside the 100-foot? That's not a, oh,
Well,
no, I'm
it's
sorry.
cable.
This cable?
The cable.
The cable, okay.
I think that'd be more of a fence.
Yeah. Does this keep the original 5 courses?
Yes, it does.
5 elements, I should say.
One question, Ms. Cox, just is there going to be a clear number of, or the length of the season and the hours of operation? Are you going to have a firm number rather than like open till dusk?
So we'd also given some thought as to potential conditions, understanding from the initial staff report that might be a question of the board. What we would propose would be a condition that would provide that the adventure park shall be open to climbers no earlier than 8 a.m. and all climbers shall be out of the adventure park by 9:30 p.m. so that there are fixed hours. There is no lighting that's proposed, so obviously as the day ends, daylight ends sooner, that would be an earlier shutdown, but the 9:30 would be
Be
a
the
firm
max.
shutdown.
And you're going to still maintain the reservation system?
Yes.
And maximum number of climbers at any one given time is still, what was it, 120?
120, yes.
What will be the last reservation of the day?
It would be a maximum of 2 hours prior to the closing.
Or dusk? I mean, that's obviously going to change as the seasons change, so.
Exactly, and that changes.
So-
And so we're constantly adjusting those times. So if it is at 9:30, last reservation would be no later than 7:30. Usually, actually, because we give an extra half an hour for the safety briefing and so on, so at 7 o'clock would be the last reservation. And if we close it at 5 o'clock, it would be somewhere around 2:30.
Just out of curiosity, just what happens if someone doesn't get all the way through and it's dark outside?
There are, there are ways of making sure that we get people down before it actually gets dark. So we have, we close down courses according to the difficulty levels earlier on. So the black course gets closed on first. So within 45 minutes of the closing time, we don't allow anyone to climb the black course, because that would be the most difficult to get people down on, and so on and so forth. So we gradually close the courses down.
But there are no lights for any type of emergencies or anything like that? So you just have to go with flashlights or something?
We do, yes, they have the little head things if they need to.
I think we're also looking for a definition of season, you know, like April 1st through October 30th, or, you know, how would you define the season that this will be open and this will be stopping operations for the year?
Right. So that's a little difficult to say because we generally like to open for school vacation in March. So we try, and that kind of fluctuates from year to year. So if we do need to have a starting date, it would probably be better to say March 1st.
Okay.
And
The school, it's been a long time since I've been in school, but I thought we only have an April vacation here. We don't have a March vacation.
Well, some
Oh, college,
private,
thank
right, and some private schools have a March vacation as well.
See,
And
we're-
then also the weather is going to dictate that because there's some years it's just too cold and we will not.
So we could fairly say March 1st to November 1st, November 30th. I mean, you can give yourself as broad a time frame as
To
you'd like. but-
November 30th would be ideal.
Yeah, because you had 11, 12.
That's correct. Some years we try to stay open until Thanksgiving break, but in general, it's getting too cold.
Okay. I'd rather have it be broad enough than limited.
So the season's March 1st to November 30th. The operational hours are 8 a.m. Until,
Maximum 9:30.
yeah, and I know it's going to be.
All right, right, does anybody on the board, after review of the plan, or any questions for any of our staff, or the applicant, or anyone else in the room that had comments or made submissions to us?
Yeah, I am a little curious about the numbers thing, because they are different between the two submissions. You know, Not enough so, I mean, they are different, but both of these show that there's far less climbers than there are people visiting Heritage Museum and Gardens. But it's just kind of a weird discrepancy.
Where did this one come from the court case?
Yeah.
That-
See this today.
We received that today
Yeah,
at 3 o'clock.
And I mean, there is quite, none of them really line up, so. I mean, they still show.
What about the total? Did they total?
No, it's no real totals, that's just the problem. You'd have to do it by hand, it'd take forever, so. Maybe the totals do come out in the end, I don't know. It's a lot of addition.
So for 2015?
Right, but it's not on this one, so I don't.
Yeah, and I did some totals on that one.
Come out.
Yeah, pretty close. Within, 3 or 4%. So I
So
wanted to
you
look
didn't
at-
see any major discrepancies between the two? I mean, of course, they're not going to be exact.
Right, but, they probably should be. I mean, they're not enough, like I said, the climbers are always far less than the
Yes.
Heritage Museum on either one. So,
And I think the only thing we were using this for is to determine was a small scale, large scale.
Correct.
so I make it,
Yeah, the impact overall.
Yeah, the total.
But it appears as that the revised plan doesn't seem to move it any much further to the east or to the south at all.
That's correct. We try to keep it as compact as possible.
Okay. Did you have a question, sir? Now, please, keep it brief. We're trying to move this along.
Mr. Chairman, yes, I do. I submitted the photograph on those bulbs going through the trees.
Right, but the bolts don't have anything to do with this. They really don't. So please, I'd rather if you just pass.
Doesn't help define it as a structure.
We've already defined it as a structure.
Yeah, we've moved that way, Carl. We've agreed amongst ourselves, we're going to do deliberations, that these are going to be structures, and the applicant now has to
Move everything.
move everything back in the 100-foot level.
And the nails are only in the platform. They're not in the trees. But it wouldn't make any difference anyways.
That's false.
I went and looked at it today, I
All
couldn't
right.
find a one that was in a tree.
I got it.
All right, but that's fine. It doesn't change.
It's immaterial.
It's immaterial, that's correct. So let's move on. It's immaterial. Let's move on. It's immaterial. Sit down, Mr. Mello. We're done.
Point of clarification.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When you were going through the detailed list that obviously I put together for the board connection to review the application, a critical requirement is this, and that's under section 3540. It's outlined in the 28 submission, and it's that under section 3540, all commercial outdoor recreation is supposed to be screened to a self-screen, so the park has to be screened from view from the public way. respectfully, I don't think it's debatable that, you know, the board's swift review, receipt and review of this plan in a span of minutes is totally consistent.
Mr. Mello, do you understand what they've done here? All they've done is take, please, they've taken the elements.
That's my point, sir.
Mr. Mello, they,
I think other folks, I think the public would like an opportunity to.
it's the exact same plan, pulling elements back into their, mixing in their property. Nothing has changed.
With a very sensitive easel system
And we all,
Mr. Mello, that's enough, please. Mr. Mello, please don't make me use the gavel again. Sit down, please, we're done.
And the point is a whole.
I understand your point, and this is the reason,
Considered section
okay,
540
I understand.
whole operation is free.
I understand.
And
Thank
I
you.
don't know the extent to which, this plan addresses that.
No, thank you very much for your comments. All right, gentlemen. Any other questions for the applicant, for Brendan or Sam or Ralph, Ann?
I want to go back to the, Chris, you had written to all the town departments if they had comments. Did the Water Commission, did all the departments report back?
I believe they did.
It'll be conservation that would be an issue.
Yeah.
If they had any issues.
And nobody spoke up?
No,
None of
I
the
don't-
departments spoke up?
There was nothing that I saw that was a concern, that wouldn't be handled by the process.
Yeah, I know Sam or Paul came back on the, little bit about the traffic. You had a couple comments there. But fire had none, police had none, water quality had none,
Is there anything, nothing from historic?
nothing historic. Concom,
I don't remember anything along those lines, and I didn't see it in my notes. All right, anybody else have any concerns or questions before we'll make a motion to close the public hearing? Is everybody ready for that, or is there something else that we need to discuss?
For clarification, I was just again referring to our request that the board continue the public hearing to allow any for the public to review.
Thank you, Mr. Mello, I understand that.
Thank you.
All right, would someone like to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to close the public hearing, if I got the right number. 1904 Heritage Plantation at Sandwich, and take it under advisement.
Second? Jim seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Killian, you're in charge.
It's a first.
Do you want me to start reading for you?
Bob, everybody's a sample.
Yeah. I have it.
Okay.
The latest one.
343. All right, so the procedural history is on April 23rd, 2019, special permit application was filed under sections 1330 and 4150 for the purpose of operating a rowing course as a small-scale recreational facility for property located at 0 Picasset Road and 0 Sham Road, Assessors Map 37, Parcel 1 and 2, on April 26th. And May 3rd, the public hearing notice was posted in the Sandwich Enterprise. Public hearing was opened on May 14th and continued until May 28th, and further continued until June 25th. Public hearing was closed on June 25th. The application was accompanied by a plan dated April 2019 and further revised June 2019 and entitled Zoning Board of Appeals Permitting Plan 0 Pecasset Street and 0 Shawm Road, C1 locus map and C2 layout plan. And then we just received
Ropes,
this.
called Ropes Course Redesign.
This is the new one?
The revised one, yeah.
Yeah.
Ropes course.
Ropes Course Redesign.
So date.
1919.
There we go.
6/19/19.
This was prepared for museums and Heritage Museum and Gardens. That's why I have the new one. The board reviewed the application, all of the materials submitted prior to the close of the public hearing. The board received and gave due consideration to the testimony given at the public hearing. Following members attended the public hearings: Neven, Killian, Jensen, Van Buskirk, O'Neill, and Bill Missinelli.
Yeah, Miss Now.
Let's see, findings. The zoning board of appeals makes the following findings with respect to the applicant's submissions and testimony at the public hearing. The Board of Appeals finds that the application meets the requirements of Section 9, Mass General Law, Chapter 40A. Board of Appeals finds that the subject property lies within the R1 zoning district. Board of Appeals finds that the subject property consists of approximately 34 acres. Board of Appeals finds that the proposed use intends to operate within the boundaries of the Heritage Museum and Gardens property. The Board of Appeals finds that the Heritage Museums and Gardens is a nonprofit organization. The board finds that the museum use is a by right in a R1 zoning district. The board finds that the Heritage Museum and Gardens have operated for 50 years. The Board of Appeals finds that the ropes course had previously operated for 4 seasons, beginning in 2015 and ending in 2018. The board finds that the ropes course had previously operated as a Dover Amendment protected use. The board finds that in 2018, Superior Court ruled that the Aerial Adventure Park could not operate as a Dover Amendment protected use. The board finds that the Aerial Adventure Park ceased operation in August 2018. The board finds that the applicant is applying for a special permit. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes the following findings with respect to Section 1330 requirements. The Board of Appeals does not find that there are conditions peculiar to this case, but not generally true for similar permitted uses on other sites in the same district, for the following reasons. We have Shawm Crowell Forest Campground is an abutting property with similar use in the same district. Any other ones we want to add?
Heritage Museum itself. No, never mind.
Okay.
No, so just that.
I think that's,
The board finds that nuisance, hazard, or congestion will not be created for the following reasons. We can specify the,
VHB traffic study for 3 years showed the
what was the DHB?
VHB
Yeah.
traffic study showed minimal increase in neighborhood traffic.
Say concurred by town engineering?
Yeah, concurred by
Yeah,
town.
make sure Sam's comments are in there.
It's VHB, by the way, just out of curiosity.
Okay, so traffic study indicated minimal increase in traffic, reviewed and affirmed by the town engineer. And how about sound?
Yeah, what is HMMH? I forget their full name company. HMMH provided a sound study that concluded conclusion, no sounds audible at the condominiums or the residences.
Okay, so HMH provided sound study which concluded there are no sounds audible from the adventure park from abutting residences.
Correct. Nuisance hazard congestion. Okay.
So the Board of Appeals finds that there will not be substantial harm to the neighborhood for the following reasons.
And I'd like to reiterate again, VHB. Traffic study. About the real estate.
The real estate appraisals.
Yeah, so you get VHB. I'd like to list three of them. The VHB for traffic.
All right, so hang on, so the traffic concluded there would be minimal impact on existing traffic.
Existing roadways.
Existing traffic conditions.
Good.
Okay.
HMMH, provided that noise would not be a factor.
Okay,
And see the impact analysis from Cape Cod Islands Appraisal Group. Concluded that no negative influence was created in the community.
property value.
Property value, yeah.
So CCI appraisal group concluded that no negative property value resulted from the operation of the adventure park. Anything further?
I think that should do it.
Okay. The board finds that there is no derogation from the intent of the bylaw such that the district's objectives will not be satisfied for the following reasons. First, there's no derogation from the intent of the bylaw as the use substantially conforms to the R1 district objectives. The use preserves the current conditions in the environment of the community. Anything further?
Not for me.
Board-
Anybody else have anything to add to that?
The board finds that the stated R1 district objectives will be satisfied for the following reasons. The use does not cause any harm to the environment or the district's current surroundings.
Fine.
Next one's the one. The Board of Appeals finds that the use does not constitute an amusement park for the purposes of the town's zoning bylaw for use classifications. The town's zoning bylaw does not specifically design amusement park. In the absence of a definition of amusement park in the town's zoning bylaw, the board considered the manner in which amusement parks are regulated and licensed under state law. The Massachusetts Department of Public Safety regulates amusement devices under 520 CMR 5, in which are defined as fixed or portable mechanical devices similar to but not limited to Ferris wheels, carousels, rock walls, Euro bungee or similar devices, inclined railways or similar devices, including inflatables, challenge courses, in artificial climbing structures, as well as amusement devices as defined by ASTM. For the purpose of state regulation, an amusement park is a location that has 35 or more amusement devices that may be operated under the Department of Safety regulations, a challenge course is a type of amusement device which is not located in an amusement park or carnival consisting of one or more elements that challenge participants as a part of a supervised educational recreational curriculum. Although the board is not bound by state law definitions under 520 CMR 5 for purposes of determining the meaning of undefined terms of the zoning bylaw, in this instance, the board considers a proposed ropes course to be akin to a challenge course, which the state regulates as a single amusement device and not as an amusement park. You must have something to add to that.
I don't think that's enough.
The Board of Appeals finds that the proposed ropes course fits the zoning bylaw definition of an outdoor recreational facility as a small-scale community recreation and sports fields or facilities allowed by special permit under Section 4150 for the following reasons. Small scale, defined as the Board of Appeals finds that the proposed use qualifies as a small scale for the following reasons. First one, it fits similar uses in the neighborhood in town such as Chamcro State Forest, campgrounds, beaches, and what else can we have?
Ball fields. Wing school's close. Soccer fields, ball fields, sports fields.
Should we comment about the attendance of roughly 100 to 200 people per day?
Yeah. What did I do with that? 1 second. The approximate average in 2015 was 136 visits per day. In 2016, it was 197 visits per day, and in 2017, it was 157 visits per day. All I did is I took the total divided by the number of days of operation
Yeah.
and came up with an average.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I narrowed it down to peak days, but.
Yeah, and then I tried to do it by, an 8-hour day and
So we
divide
can say between 150 and 2?
between 150 and 200 per day,
Versus Heritage.
which was between 475 and 500 per day average.
But that's not relevant to the small scale.
No, but it's a comparison of about something it's about a two.
Okay, the next one is a breakdown of the heritage visitors versus the park.
Okay,
And it's about,
about 20%.
so,
That on average, the ropes course attracts approximately 20% of the amount of heritage museums and gardens.
did you base that on the entire year?
Yes, I did.
So it's about a 20% of the existing traffic?
Yeah.
Yes, the proposed adventure park represents a 20% increase in visitors compared to with the Heritage Museum facility.
Correct.
Small scale,
It meets all the parameters.
meets all the small scale parameters set forth in 4150. Okay, community, the Board of Appeals finds that the proposed use can be defined as a community recreation use for the following reasons. Discounted rates are offered to local schools, scouts, teachers, first responders, and military, as well as 3 free passes a year for neighbors abutting Heritage Gardens. Local businesses have benefited from the proposed use In the past, ticket stubs from the ropes course can be used for discounted food at local restaurants. The Planning and Development Office are in receipt of numerous letters of support from the Sandwich residents, furthering the definition of community for this use. Recreational facility, the board finds that the proposed use is a recreation facility for the following reasons. Zoning bylaw definition of recreation facilities includes uses such as rock climbing walls, which are commercial in nature and open to the general public. I guess that's good. I don't know if you want to comment that it's similar, but I guess it is.
Similar to a climbing wall? Oh, it's already in there, so it's just for climbing walls.
Okay, the board.
Before you go any further, let me just look at something. I want to see what the definition.
Is there a definition for
It's listed in the.
All right, so I'm going to add, which are commercial in nature, similar in operation. In operation.
Okay.
Anything further?
No.
The Board feels considered the special permit criteria of section 4150 of the protective zoning bylaw applicable to outdoor recreational facility, and finds that the following criteria are met. No building or other structure related to the outdoor recreation facility shall be constructed or placed on the lot with an area of less than 8,000 square feet. Such structures shall be single-story, shall be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, and shall not exceed 500 square feet. In residential districts, concession stands located in a permanent structure are expressly prohibited, and the Board of Appeals find that the criteria is met for the following reasons. We can say see attached plan.
Yeah.
That's 35.37 acres. We need to bring that up.
Lighting is prohibited for fields and parking areas related to outdoor recreation facilities located in residential districts and commercial and industrial districts. Lighting is permitted only at, between dusk and 10 p.m.
We don't
Where-
need to have that in there, it's not a commercial.
No, but we're going through and we're listing the applicability to 4150. and It
Okay.
meets those requirements. Board finds that this criteria is met for the following reasons. Let's see.
Are you noting that the lighting that is in that parking lot is for use on Heritage?
No, because it's existing. It's not being proposed.
You're right,
Lot coverage by building structures, paving, and other impervious additions to any building structures, paving, impervious surface shall not exceed 20%. Board of Appeals finds this is met. 1%?
okay. It was
1%. 1.4.
Let's say less than 2%.
There you go.
Buildings or structures, including any accessory buildings or structures, shall not be located within 100 feet of any property line. The Board of Appeals finds that this criteria is met for the following reasons.
Per drawing submitted.
Drawing.
Submitted plan details compliance with the required 100-foot setback. Off-street parking shall be provided and shall be located within 100 feet of any property boundary. Shall be screened from any public way or private way. Board of Appeals finds that this criteria is
Met for the The new drawing shows it within 100 feet, inside the 100 feet.
So submitted plan details compliance with this requirement. Spectator seat shall not exceed 100 in number. Board of Appeals finds that this criteria is met. Following reasons.
Yeah, it's stated, there is no, how they put it, there was a couple picnic tables.
So they would be under the max, or
Yeah.
at the max.
There's no seating for greater than 100 people.
So applicant has demonstrated compliance.
Yes.
Okay, the board finds in its discretion that the proposed outdoor recreation facility is allowed as a second principal use of a non-residential property, and that the lot area on which the proposed course will be located is 1,540,717.2 square feet in area, which exceeds by at least 80,000 square feet the current minimum lot area for a R1 district in which the subject parcel is located. The Board of Appeals finds that the elements of the ropes course does meet
It does meet.
the definition of a structure under the protective zoning bylaw.
One under section 3540 about commercial outdoor recreation must be screened in all districts. I think we should put finding in for that.
No, that wasn't in there. Must be screened. In adjacent residential.
Okay, we can screen that part.
Yeah. But I think, to the point that he brought it up, let's get it in there.
Okay, so what is that, Tim?
That's section 3540, commercial outdoor recreation must be screened from any adjacent residential use or district by a wall, fence, or densely planted trees or shrubs 3 feet or more in height, or be equivalently obstructed by natural vegetation.
And that was what, 35, 50?
3540.
Okay, so they demonstrated compliance because they planted the trees.
Yeah, I think that the plan submitted and what we saw tonight demonstrated that compliance.
From over here, I can see a little bit, but nobody looks like that.
Those are evergreens, right?
Evergreen, yeah.
This is above glass.
Right, and they're screened out here.
So that was screening from,
Along Shawm Road.
yeah, but the bylaw was for roadway screening or just properties above the property line?
It says must be screened from any adjacent residential use or district.
But doesn't say.
Doesn't mean roads. Parking areas of 6 or more cars, contractors yard, storage.
parking areas, open storage or loading or service yards.
Public way from which they would be otherwise visible, the sales display areas of merchandise which they don't have.
Not going to have that.
Contractors, yards, open fields of roads, screen from the adjacent residential. I think that covers it. Equivalently obscured by natural vegetation.
All right, so the applicant demonstrated compliance with 3540 with the installation of evergreen trees to screen the proposed adventure park from residential uses.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Anything additional?
Address parking there in the second sentence. Parking is just one parking, which,
The parking?
Oh, because that's a separate, yeah.
yeah, that's a separate street requirement. E3.
Parking areas of 6 or more cars shall be similarly screened from
But
any
we-
adjacent
Yeah, we have
residential.
that finding in the other section where we discussed off-street parking, and it shall be screened from any public way.
Okay.
So we do have those.
Because that was covered under the
Yeah.
other one,
I'll make a motion to, or any other, I didn't have any other findings.
Anybody else have anything or comments or additions to the findings? No? All right, well,
I'll
can I
move
get a
to adopt the
motion?
findings.
I'll second.
Do we take an individual vote, or do we just all in favor?
You could take an individual vote.
We'll take an individual vote. Chris, yes?
Jim, yes?
Bob, yes?
Eric, yes.
yeah. Tim, yes.
All right.
All right, so conditions. The public hearing, the zoning board of appeals considered potential conditions of approval for the special permit. The board voted the following conditions of approval, and they shall be imposed upon the special permit approval, and that these conditions are reasonable, and that the applicant and its successors in interest shall be bound by these conditions. Failure to comply with all the conditions set forth in the decision shall terminate the grant of the special permit pursuant to the requirements of the Sandwich Protected Zoning Bylaw, Section 1330. The grant of the special permit shall expire upon both the transfer of ownership prior to initiation of substantial construction on or occupancy of the site, unless such transfer is authorized in this permit, or if no substantial construction or occupancy takes place within 12 months of the special permit approval, excluding such time required to pursue or await the determination of appeal referred to in MGL Chapter 40, Section 17. Special permit should not take effect until it is recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, and a copy of the recorded special permit is provided to the planning board, zoning board.
What?
To the planning office.
Planning office, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, lighting is prohibited for fields and parking areas. Concession stands are prohibited. This includes the sale of any beverages or food. Reservation system for the use must remain in place to help manage vehicle activity. There should be a maximum of 120 climbers at any given time. Seasons shall be defined as
March 1st.
March 1st to November 30th. 31 days in November.
not recently.
That's what I thought.
Isn't concession stands more if it's a permanent?
Yeah.
If it was like a cart, I don't know, this is just everything.
Music shall be prohibited. Hours of operation,
I can see that.
8 a.m. till 9:30 or prior.
that was Monday through Friday, right?
No, I think that
No,
was 7 days.
7
away.
days.
Yeah, that's, I'm sorry. All parking must be screened from abutters as defined in Section 3540 of the Protective Zoning Bylaw. Proposed ropes course must be constructed in accordance with site plan entitled.
You want to go through that again?
Yes.
Okay. Zoning Board of Appeals permitting plan. 0 Shum Road,
This is the new one.
the new one. Ropes Course redesign.
Slow down.
Who?
0 Picasset Street.
Right, and 0 Shum Road, Shumpy Road.
Mm-hmm.
Ropes Course redesign. Dated 6/19/2019.
Any change, extension, or alteration may not be implemented without prior approval of the zoning board of appeals. Any other conditions?
At the first meeting, we talked about putting on a condition that will remain with 5 courses. Do we want to keep that in the conditions?
Well, the only thing is, if they wanted to change it, they'd have to come back to us, right?
If they change,
If they change anything, they have to come back to us.
Yeah.
Any change, extension, alteration.
All right, can I have a motion to impose the conditions of approval?
Wait a minute, Chris.
Oh, sorry.
I think we had some notes about other additional conditions. If I can just find it. No, maybe not. It was, I think you did cover them. Just give me one more second. Maximum people, we got that in there, right?
What's that?
Maximum people.
On the course,
Yep,
yeah.
120.
No, I got it.
All right, ready? Can I have a motion to impose the above conditions on approval?
I'll move the conditions.
I'll second.
Chris, yes?
Jim, yes.
Bob, yes?
Eric, yes.
Tim, yes.
Okay. After reviewing the application, the plan, and other materials submitted, and after giving the due consideration to testimony given at the public hearing, the board hereby approves a special permit application for the purpose of operating a ropes course on property located at 0 Picasset Road and 0 Sham Road, Sandwich, as shown on Assessors Map 37 and Parcel 1 and 2. I move to approve the special permit consideration of findings of the zoning board of appeals and subject to the conditions stated herein.
I'll second.
Chris, yes?
Jim, yes?
Bob, yes?
Eric, yes.
Tim, yes.
All right, everyone. We're going to move on with the meeting. That special permit has been approved, and if anybody would like to stay and watch paint dry for a little bit, you're welcome to. We have no new business. We have any items on board discussion? No other deliberations? Other matters not reasonably anticipated by the chairman, not this evening? How about a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
How about a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.